It's Sunday, it's 8 o'clock, and you're watching Live in the Hive. I'm Michelle Eagleton, and this is the only online magazine show dedicated to theatre across Greater Manchester. A big thanks for joining us if you're watching us on the I Love Manchester Facebook page, the iconic city brand dedicated to community and culture, or maybe you're watching us on our very own Live in the Hive Facebook page. Wherever you are definitely in for a treat if you love theatre, because we've got some great guests this evening on the show. Yes, you might remember him from starring in EastEnders many moons ago, and tonight he is with us on Live in the Hive. Of course, he's actor Joe Absolom. He is talking about starring in the Shawshank Redemption at the Lowry. That's coming there very, very soon. And we also wanted to get you prepared for Halloween. And what better way than to talk to Rhian Blundell, who is starring in Let the Right One In at the Royal Exchange. Extremely spooky. It's going to make you jump out of your seats. And we've also got a real treat for you, a fantastic amateur operatic dramatic society. We have got another spotlight on North Manchester's group, and they are doing the Pirates of Penzance. So we're going to be going a little bit behind the scenes later on in the show and seeing what they're up to. But let's kick off tonight with Joe, because he joined me earlier on this week to chat about the Shawshank Redemption. Now, you might remember it as the movie or the Stephen King novel. Both of them were absolute hits. So I had to ask what it's like for Joe to star in a production like this, and is it just as good as what we're seeing on the screen and in the novel?
The story's actually really good on its own, and then you've got to put the film with it, and because the film's kind of iconic in terms of like every, like Morgan Freeman and just his voice, and there was like mild pressure at the beginning to sort of try and get it, because we weren't sure how they were going to do it. How are you going to sort of tell these key moments? And the feedback we're getting is a lot of people turn up and they're going, I don't know if this is going to be any cop. How are they going to do this? They kind of start off a bit skeptical is the word, and then at the end they're like on their feet going, yeah, because it's a good kind of hopeful story. And I think, I'm not just saying it, but I know. Like, I genuinely think it's a really good version of it, and what the feedback we're getting, that's all I can go on, because when I accepted the job, I didn't really ever think that having people enjoy the show was something that you would get anything from. I didn't sort of think in my brain, well, actually, I'll get something back. All you think about is the money, where you got to be, and the lines. You know what I mean? I treat things like a job, because I'm a fairly miserable and lazy chap. So if I got to do anything, I think about the nuts and bolts of it. But what's really surprising me is actually what you get back as a cast telling the story for 2 hours. It sounds very actory, and I try not to be like that, but it's rewarding for us, and as a cast, we're a good, strong group, good squad, and we're all getting on, which is good, because I think if you go on tour and you don't like people, it's really hard work.
Oh God, it's like a constant Big Brother kind of syndrome. If you don't like people, you're like in the pockets all the time. And is there 12 of you?
There's 12 of us, and then a couple of crew guys, like 4 or 5 stage guys. So we're doing a good tour of Wetherspoon's pubs.
I love it.
So we need to get the invite for your bar.
You do. You need to come here. Actually, you can have free drinks in here and no last orders, Joe. Bring them. You can come here anytime, Joe, with the cast. It is here for you, especially when you're down the road in Salford, because just round the corner now, you're looking forward to coming up north.
Oh, I love it. I love Manchester. I really do. I've filmed a lot of stuff there over the years. Lots of good fun. Lots of good people there. I like Manchester. It's one of the only places I've been where I've just gone out on my own on a Saturday night, because I was there and I was doing something, and I felt like that. Manchester and Glasgow, the 2 places I've done that. On a Saturday night in the middle of town on your own. In London, you just wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? You'd need someone with you. But Manchester, within minutes you're talking to someone, having a really nice time. There's nothing, no one expects anything. It's good, honest fun, and that's it, really. I like it, and everyone's looking forward to it. The whole, like, all the guys, they're sort of, everyone says, I won't do anything. I'm not going to party in Leicester, but Manchester's the one.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's like you get people just coming up to you having a good old natter. We like a good old natter. We've got a lot of heart in this city.
Yeah, I know. I've always liked it, and as I said, I've worked there quite a bit, so I'm looking forward to getting back and seeing what's new. There's always something new.
Absolutely. And now you're in Cornwall, so it's a little bit different, isn't it? I suppose when you look out, you've got a little bit of kind of the water, you know, a bit more sun than we have up north. Are you enjoying it in Cornwall? Because you've settled there now, haven't you?
Yeah, I like Cornwall a lot. I've got my kids there, and yeah, I like it a lot. I think I'm like Londoner, and the minute I always thought I could never leave like London, I think this is anyone who feels like they're, tied to a city. The minute you actually leave that city, you realise that city, it means a lot to you, but you can always go back, and it never goes anywhere. So I go back to London as a visitor, and I love it. I absolutely love it, because when you live in a city, you never really do the things you should do.
Just to test you on being Cornish, how do you have your scone?
So, yeah, so my theory is I don't hold much truck with this, because in theory, I base it on science rather than borders. So if I was to have a scone, which I rarely, when is someone going to eat a scone in real life? But if I was going to have one, I would put the butter on, because the cream, because I would assume in science the cream is like a butter. You would never put jam and then butter on your toast. So if you look at the two substances, jam and clotted cream, one of them looks more like butter, physically, scientifically, chemistry style. So put the clotted cream on, which acts like the butter, and then the jam, and it doesn't matter where you live. That's just science.
I agree with that, but I've got to say, you might not be going back to Cornwall, because that is the Devonshire way, not the Cornish way.
Is it really?
First, and then your clotted cream, Joe, so you need to sort that out.
Do you know what? I don't care if they don't let me back into Cornwall. I'll just stay on tour.
Well, absolutely, because it's an absolutely cracking production, I've got to say. I absolutely love the Shawshank Redemption, but it's a little bit of a gamble for you, I imagine, because you've only done one theatre production prior to this, haven't you? So, with 25 years on our screens, did it feel like, ooh, yeah, and I suppose it had to be the right production, didn't it? Because you must get offers all the time.
Do you know what? I went to see when we were filming Doc Martin. I went to see one of the characters on Doc Martin, Selena Cadell. She plays Mrs. Tishel, the chemist with the neck brace. She was directing her friend, and she texted me and said, "Look, we're putting on this. We've been rehearsing it. We're putting on a show in a little village hall in Cornwall, and it's a one-woman show of The Great Expectations. Would you like to come and just see it?" And I was like, "Okay." So I went along, because it was like a Tuesday afternoon, and it was Eddie Izzard doing a one-woman show of The Great Expectations in high-heeled boots and miniskirt and blonde hair. And I was mesmerized, not just by the boots and the very strong legs, but in tights, but mesmerized. Just did this amazing version of The Great Expectations, the Charles Dickens thing. And I thought it was really good. So I sort of emailed my agent, was like, apparently I'm an actor, so maybe I should be thinking about, like whether I could do something similar, or whether, I don't think I could do something that similar. But anyway, they obviously listened, and then they sort of said, "What about the Shawshank Redemption?" I was like, I hadn't even seen the film, so I was like, okay. And then you start thinking, because I'm quite lazy, I was thinking, that sounds like quite a lot of work. But then I read the script, and I really liked it. I really liked the script, and I was like, and having only done one play, I wasn't sure if I would have the mental capacity for it, because a lot of people say to me, "How do you remember the lines?" And to be fair, that's all you've got to do. It's not that difficult. You know what I mean? That's all you've got to do today, is learn those lines. I think most people, 9 times out of 10, would get it, would learn them. And there is a lot of nerves. Like the first few times you do it, your body does a lot of strange things when it's nervous.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
And we start on stage naked, and let me tell you, the body does a lot of strange things when you're nervous. Everything retracts.
I heard that there's strategically placed prison outfits, though, isn't there, Joe? But we might get to see your legs, so kind of you do have that Eddie Izzard moment, don't you? Then?
Yeah, but he wore tights and looked good in them. I'm just.
Hey, you can mix it up one night. The crowd would not know. It's like that was actually in the stage production, Joe. It's in there.
You'd be very popular if you joined prison in fishnet tights. I think you'd be a very popular inmate very quickly.
I could definitely see him rocking those tights. You never know if you do go and see it. He might be wearing the odd fishnet. We will have to wait and see. But if you love Joe, and he is a great guy, we've got more of him coming up later on in the show. And do stay tuned if you are a big fan of Doc Martin, because he gives away loads of secrets about filming that show and what it was like to film those last few scenes. Because, of course, last series of Doc Martin, no way, it's been there for so long on our TV screens. Anyway, save your tissues for a little bit later on, because now we are going to take a look at a fantastic amateur operatic dramatic society in North Manchester. It's been running since 1919, which is absolutely incredible. Over 100 years it has been going, and this year it is putting on an absolute Gilbert and Sullivan classic, The Pirates of Penzance. They invited me to go down to one of their rehearsals, see what they're up to, and also find out more about the group. So with our spotlight shining on them brightly, take a look at what they're up to.
I pray you pardon me, ex-pirate king. Here's where we lived, and you love Hammersmith.
We formed in 1919 as the Simpson Memorial Drama and Tennis Society, and then we did our first show in 1920, which was the Mikado, which we were due to do in 2020, but because of COVID we couldn't, so we had to do it in 2021. But the year after we did Mikado, originally, we did the Pirates of Penzance. So we carried on the theme. We thought, well, why not do the Pirates of Penzance the year after we did Mikado? And here we are.
Now, The Pirates of Penzance is probably one of Gilbert and Sullivan's most famous comic operas, which premiered in the late 1800s, and it's still popular today. It had a Broadway revival in the 1980s, where it was modernised a bit, but it's full of catchy tunes that audiences will know and love, like Cat Like Tread and When the Foeman Bears His Steel. And it's about a group of bungling pirates who, their only crime really is that they want to marry the Major General's daughters, and that's their serious crime. They're not the best pirates in the world, but they're trying to stop by a group of very pathetic and bumbling policemen. So the comedy ensues when the pirates and the policemen meet each other, and it all goes wrong from there.
When you've had a tough day at work, to go to a rehearsal and be somebody else for a couple of hours is a really good way to lose yourself if you've got sort of stressful things going on, and it's just great fun to be somebody else, you know, to absorb yourself in the character. And this group, I joined. They had a principal drop out of a show, the Mikado, last November, and I picked up the part at about 4 weeks' notice and performed it with them. So that was my first time with North Manchester, and I was welcomed with open arms. And they kind of said to me, "That's it now. We're not letting go of you," kind of thing. So that's been nice to know that they really want me back, you know.
So for me, I really wanted to get into being part of the community in Manchester, and so I thought this would be a good way, and it was. Everybody's really relaxed, really happy. I just enjoy it. I look forward to coming.
It's fun. It's stressful. It's daft. But it's really, when you've got the show together and it comes off as you've rehearsed all those weeks, it's a really, really satisfying thing to do. It's our hobby and we really love it. And the day after a show finishes, it feels like your arm's been cut off.
I think if you cut most of us down the middle, like Blackpool Rock, you'd find musical theatre written through us, you know. Once it gets into your blood, it's really hard to stop.
Directing the production and starring in it is quite tricky. However, I've got I think I have a good knowledge of GNS and how the show should work, and a lot of pre-work for myself went into that, so I could slot myself into the scenes nicely and direct myself, I suppose, knowing where everybody else was going to be, what they needed to do, and I could fit myself into those scenes and then pop out and watch how that was being set and how it was going on.
To get out, socialise a bit more, and you can do, if you are someone who likes music, you can get a bit of that passion back in your life.
Oh, what a talented bunch they are. A big thanks there to North Manchester Amateur Operatic Dramatic Society for inviting Live in the Hive down behind the scenes of their rehearsals for the Pirates of Penzance. It's going to be an absolutely cracking production. Do try and get down there if you can to see that one. And if you are in an Amateur Operatic Dramatic Society yourself, or you know of anybody that is, we would love to pop down and visit them as well and see what they're up to. Give us an email on liveinthehiveuk@gmail.com, and they could be on this very show in our spotlight section. Now let's carry on with Live in the Hive. We've got loads still to come up on tonight's show. Are you ready to be terrified though? Oh, we're going all spooky now, and to give you a quick tease of what we're about to talk about, take a look at this trailer for Let the Right One In.
It's a real good horror story. It's got a bit of romance, it's got a bit of thriller in it, but yeah, more so than anything, I really hope that people spill their drinks down them during the show. Like, it should be that jumpy, hopefully. So
Well, it's got the right setting. I mean, the Royal Exchange, I absolutely adore going to see productions in that theatre and that space, because in the round, getting that close to the action is so intimate, and it does kind of really lead to something like this to actually get you on the edge of your seat, I suppose.
yeah. I mean, I think the Royal Exchange is like such a gorgeous part of Manchester as a whole. I think that the space is one of those incredible things where it's a huge space, but also you feel like everything's right there all the time, and it leans, so like you say, so well into a story like this, because there's kind of no escape from what's going on.
Well, we've just seen the trailer, okay, and I've got to say, it does make you start thinking, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to come next? You know, some like gives you that jumpy feeling. But try and tell us a bit about it without giving too much away, because I think, you know, there's a lot of it about kind of like the coming of age, isn't there, as well on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the original story of Let the Right One In was from a Swedish novelist. The original story is set in Sweden, and there's been a couple of different film adaptations. It's been this version that we're doing for the stage has been done a couple of times before, and it is very much one of those stories of falling in love for the first time and feeling different, and that kind of that moment where you feel like you finally found someone that gets you for the first time. It's that thing I think all of us go through the first time you fall in love, of like, oh, it's like this. Did everybody know it was like this? Did everyone know it was this insane? So yeah, there's that running theme through the whole piece. But then on top of that, you've kind of got this town and these people who are very aware of this kind of ongoing, ever-pressing threat, this new thing that's happened in the town. These deaths have started happening. No one knows why. Up until this point, it's been a very sort of quiet, sleepy town. So those two elements mixed, I mean, that's like a perfect night out for me. I love stories like that. So
Well, it's almost kind of, you have this nature of going into dark things, you know, the Vampire Academy, and usually we see you in stunts and stuff. So I suppose this is a little departure in that way, but there's still that element of dark going on, isn't there?
there's definitely an element of dark, and I absolutely am not going to spoil anything, but this job has not been any less physical than the last one. So
Ooh.
hopefully just for people who like that kind of thing. There might be that sort of thing in this as well.
Oh, I'm intrigued. I really, really am. So Eli is your character, or is it Eli?
I mean, Eli is kind of the ongoing question, and we're using Eli because I think we went through a couple of different ways of saying the name, and then I think our director Bryony ended up phoning a friend who was Swedish and being like, "Look, just give us one good pronunciation, and we'll stick with it." But yeah, I mean, Eli's kind of a mystery, and I think that what Eli is and who Eli is and what parts of Eli people can relate to is something that you sort of discover as the story goes on. So yeah, I don't want to give too much away because Eli's a big mystery.
How amazing is it going to be to kind of do it across, like I say, the Halloween season? Because everybody, I think, in that audience is probably going to be up for it, aren't they?
I do hope so. I mean, I've already sort of been seeing as I've been walking into work that the pumpkins are up in the town centre and like the time is approaching, and I love Halloween. So yeah, I really hope it hits exactly the right time for everybody. I think it will.
And is this your first time on the stage at the Royal Exchange? How are you finding that?
You probably shouldn't ask me that because I'll just start bouncing around the room. Like the Royal Exchange was one of those, like as a northern-based actress, like I grew up in Blackpool, the Royal Exchange was that kind of ultimate goal. It was like it was. I remember watching Saran Jones when I can't remember how old I was, but I really vividly remember watching Saran Jones do Blithe Spirit, and it was one of the first experiences I'd had of theatre that was like so incredibly immersive, and it was just at the throes of me really falling in love with it. So to be like a northern actor and to get to walk those boards it's an absolute dream come true. I can't quite believe it.
I know so many great people have been on that stage. You've got people like, Kate Winslet was in What the Butler Saw. Andrew Garfield, I remember seeing him in Kes.
Yeah.
It is absolutely incredible.
Pete Postlethwaite. I know that Maxine Peake is in the next show.
Yes.
And someone needs to pre-warn me when she's in the building because I'm not going to cope. I might just scream and cry. So yeah.
Now I've got a little girl. I say little girl, she's like 12 going on 24 sometimes. This is for 14 upwards. Would you say that's a good kind of age? You know, if someone's thinking of taking a teenager, because it has been, popular kind of cult novel, is that a good kind of age guide then, really? It's not going to scare them too much to death.
I think so. I think that it's one of those things where, I mean, to be fair, like my sister's in her late 20s and I keep being like, are you sure you're going to be okay with this? Because there's like a lot of gore in this. Like I think it's just per person, but yeah, definitely it's gory and it's scary, but it's also very exciting and you see a lot of life and a lot of humanity. So I think it's just based on the person. Like bring a scarf to hide behind if you need it. I would say that.
Absolutely. Then you've got like a little bit of kind of safety blanket at the side of you and it's all good. Talking to your sister then, so you said you're from Blackpool originally. Are all the family and your friends going to come down to see this, Rhian, while you're here at the Royal Exchange?
Oh, yes. I think it's going to be I mean, at this point, I won't be surprised if my dad's going to hire a coach to try drag everybody over. So, I mean, that'll be great. And hopefully I've got some friends as well, like some Vampire Academy people, hopefully they're going to come and watch. I think it's one of those stories that everybody kind of wants to come and see. So, like, I think despite me being in it, I think it's the kind of thing that a lot of people would want to come and watch anyway.
Were you tempted to watch the film before you actually got to the text? Because it's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah. So I had watched the Swedish film a long time ago, and then I kind of didn't go back. I kind of just stuck with the script because it's one of those things where the through line is 100% the same, but I would say there's elements to the play, and actually I kind of hope that people who are fans of the film, they'll want to come and watch the play because there's definitely elements to what we're doing that not is different, but just is a bit of a different take and a bit of a different energy to things. So I wanted to throw myself into that rather than getting too caught up in what I'd seen before. But yeah, I would hope that whether you're a fan of the book or a fan of the film, there's something that there's things that you'll love, and there's also maybe things you won't expect. So
lovely. Well, this takes you up now until the 19th of November. Have you thought ahead for after that? Have you got anything planned? Have you got any work that's taking you into next year?
Not at the minute, to be honest, but to be honest, it's been quite nice. I've been insanely lucky this year in that I've had so much to do for such a long period of time that, to be honest, I'm quite looking forward to just going home and annoying my mum for a little while over Christmas. So we'll see what happens after that.
As a mum myself, we absolutely love that. So annoy away, just don't scare her, just scare us on the stage. But there, I love stuff like this. I really, really do. And I think it is a perfect place. So yes, make me jump, make me scream.
100%, it's gonna happen.
That is definitely one for any horror lovers out there. I think this one is really going to spook you out at the Royal Exchange. Let the right one in. Perfect for the Halloween season. And of course, that is on there right now. Go and see that one if you can. And something that is round the corner for us at the Lowry is, of course, the Shawshank Redemption. We caught up with Joe Absolom a little bit earlier on in the show. Now to time for the second half of my chat, because of course I couldn't let him leave without asking him what it was like to star in one of the best loved TV shows around. Of course, I'm talking about Doc Martin. He's been in it for years. This is the final series and he's had to say goodbye. So here's a lowdown with Joe, and also you may find out what he took home as a little bit of memorabilia. Doc Martin is obviously its final series. Have you finished filming those final scenes? You've been in that for 8 years. Has that been emotional?
I have to say, yeah, it was you know, it's more the people, you know, it's more the people. The show and the scripts we do, you know, are always been enjoyable because it's not, you know, well, I did something called A Confession, which was about basically a serial killer and it's quite dark, you know, and I researched that a lot because it was about like a guy that's still alive playing a real person. And that's a different mindset. And I remember getting home after 2 weeks and my wife and the kids were like, what's wrong with you? Why is your face like that? And it was sort of set in a sort of horrible way. And it gets into your system that. But then Doc Martin is it's kind of really nice. You know, we're not murdering anyone or sort of, it's a kind of gentle kind of way of living. And so for 4 or 5 months of every other year, we've been sitting in Cornwall, but you know, talking about, the fun run starts at 11, Doc. You know, it's not been not taxing, but it's not kind of draining or miserable stuff. So it's always really been a really good job, and everyone on it has enjoyed it because we have actors who come on and do like 1 or 2 episodes, and they've always said this is amazing. You know, you get to come to a really nice little village in Cornwall and spend a couple of days and have a nice time with a really good team. So filming the last episode and the last scenes with my wife Jess Ransom, you know, it was like we just kept trying to ignore that it was the last one because we've never, you know, we didn't really want to deal with that. And the few days after, when everyone leaves Cornwall, because I stay in Cornwall, I live there, so for me it's not too much of a wrench. But I know leaving Cornwall for the guys was hard work. But for a few days after, I think I had like mild grief symptoms, you know.
Yeah.
If I thought about it, I would get teary. You know, if I thought about that we'll never stand around again as a sort of crew and as a cast and on the Platte in Port Isaac, which is the bit just before the sea where we spent years. My kids have grown up, you know. They've all been extras in the Doc Martin. They've all been, three of them. A couple of them had little lines to do. When we started it, I didn't have Lila. We finished it this year. She was in the last one of the scenes, and she's like 16. She's tall, almost as tall as me, you know. So to see, and that goes for everyone's kids. Everyone on it has had children in that time, and they've all grown up. You know, I've seen Caroline's son is now like this massive dude, and he plays saxophone. And I met him when he was like 4. You know, wow. Now he's like, you know. So because we've actually done the job for over 18 years, because we started that long ago. So it's gonna to not see everyone is going to be interesting, but we just got to make an effort to stay in touch. Which me and the guy that plays my dad, he's coming to see the show in Guildford, Ian. He's a lovely man. We've kept in touch, and I'm in touch with a few of the guys. We've got a WhatsApp group, but no one ever replies when I put silly messages up.
Oh, that's not
It's
good.
already started. You know that bit where you think, well, of course we'll stay in touch. And, you know, what are we on, like 3 months later, no one's replying.
Yeah,
Hey,
but
guys.
at least no one's exited, because I hate that when you set up a WhatsApp group and somebody leaves and you're like, oh. What have I done? Or what's happened?
Well, I have to say no one's left one of my groups. I have only set up one, though, but so there's still time.
Did you nick anything from the set? Have you kept any memorabilia from Doc Martin?
Funny enough, the costume guy, so my costume stayed pretty much the same throughout the 18 years we did it. So I was still wearing jeans in 2022 that I was wearing, that I'd had, that I remember buying in Gap, were boot cut jeans that I bought in like 2005 for, so I wanted to burn them. But Al Large had this watch, and a couple of times I'd be wearing it and I never really gave it much thought. And often there'd be an extra would stand next to me and say, your watch is interesting. It's from an army issue watch or something. And I knew nothing about it. So every day I'd put it on and then you put it in a little Tupperware thing and it's got Al's watch on it. So for 18 years, I just put it on and several people would say, your watch, that's worth something. And so anyway, the end of the job, the costume guy gave it to me and said, look, you can have the watch. And we looked it up online, and it's about 900 quid worth of military watch, I think. But I've still got I've got it in the little Tupperware thing at home because I won't sell it. But but it's nice to have this little watch.
We might see you on Antiques Roadshow, Celebrity Antiques Roadshow, a little bit later on.
Yeah.
Like, that's the watch.
Well, it'd be interesting to know where it's been in life. You know, I like to know these things. But so I've still got that, but that's at home because I literally finished and then I came straight away to do this. So that's still in its Tupperware box. And when we finished Doc Martin, they gave us this really nice box and it just said Doc Martin on it. And we were like, wow, what's in this box? And everyone in the crew got them, and we opened it up and it was a quite awful teapot. It's like white with gold letter writing, and it's really kind of like even my gran would say, no thanks, mate.
I was going to say it'd be a nice kind of classic whiskey or something, you know, quite an old bottle of whiskey.
We thought something, you know, we had high hopes or a watch or something, you know, this kind of, and it was a really bad teapot. They're still in its box. I'm sure that will get on eBay at some point.
It will do. But hey, in the meantime, before you go on eBay and before we get you on Antiques Roadshow with the watch, we need to catch you up and down the country, especially in Salford at the Lowry. So you are
the Lowry, which we're looking forward to.
You're coming very, very soon. It's the 31st of October to the 5th of November that we get you here. Great cast, absolutely fantastic production. And we will give you a big warm welcome, Joe, even though you put your jam and your cream on the wrong way for Cornwall.
Listen, it's science. It's science. It doesn't make any sense to put the jam on and then it just gets the knife messy. Come on, people.
No scones in prison. No scones.
What I'm looking forward, what do you put on a band cake? Chips and gravy, isn't it? I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. We'll give you some chips and gravy. We'll see you soon. Oh, we talked everything there, from Shawshank Redemption to Doc Martin to even barm cakes. Who knew Joe was into his barm cakes? If he's coming up north, though, he needs chips, he needs a barm, he needs gravy, and a bit of salt and vinegar. Bish, bash, bosh. Now, big thanks to Joe and the rest of my guests this evening. I have had a great night chatting to them all. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. I am back next week here on Live in the Hive on I Love Manchester's Facebook and our very own Live in the Hive Facebook. If you want to find out, though, what's going on in the theatre world throughout the week, do head to the I Love Manchester website for more information. And of course, you can always give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Live in the Hive 21. We'll be back with more next week here on Live in the Hive. Until then, have a great week and I'll see you on Sunday.